That was presented by the Society of Ploughmen to myself for services to the society when I was chairman when the National was held in Oxfordshire, at Shillingford in Oxfordshire. It's a silver for an appreciation of services to the society.
What are your first memories of ploughing?
Oh, Toby, it goes back so far. I've been passionately interested in ploughing for many years, even as a boy.
Did your father, was he a strong ploughman?
No, the governor was always known as the governor.
Yeah.
Never a father or dad, always the governor.
Yeah.
Tends to be a Victorian sort of man, but a sound man, a good husbandman. And he didn't know a cultivator from a plough, but a wonderful stockman. So I'm really self-taught as far as ploughing is concerned. I won my first major match in 1948 and my last match in 2004 when I retired. I saw ploughing through the hedge on my way to school and things like that, you see, and was fascinated by it in my early teens, very likely.
Yes.
And thought, I'd love to do that. I was so intrigued with it. The way the soil came up the board and accelerated off the end of the board.
Yes. And
the slice was laid against his neighbour and that sort of thing. The whole thing was so fascinating. The Fairford, Farringdon, Filkins and Burford Ploughing Society came into being in 1948.
Yes.
On the amalgamation of 4 local ploughing clubs.
Smaller clubs.
That's right. They fell by the wayside, and the fellows involved with those clubs, in their wisdom, decided they would amalgamate and create one ploughing and hedging match. Do you see?
Yes.
As in '48, and since then the Filkins, the Fairford, Farringdon, Filkins and Burford Ploughing Society has become known affectionately as the 3 Fs and a B. And you can interpret that how you like, but that's it. That's with affection it's used. Yes. And it's now become of national status. We are recognised. When I say we, I'm a life member of this society, and we're now recognised as one of the premier societies in the country. Our own society, this Filkins outfit now is got quite a young committee and very dynamic and very keen and determined to.
And these are local people with farms and.
Yes, they're farmers and farm workers. Some are even not associated with agriculture. Some are an auctioneer, very much involved, and shopkeepers and things like that. Mm. I might say that the society, we've got something like 250 members, paid up members, and they're all enthusiastic that this society should continue, be perpetuated. You see. Mm.
I notice in the programme for this coming Saturday's match, some classes are qualifiers for the national championships for next year.
Yes.
And you have to win to qualify to get to the national championship.
Yes, to go forward to the British National Championships.
Right.
And then you plough the next year at the British National, wherever it might be, and we move around. Now we again, forgive me, I'm wearing a different hat.
Yeah, I'm following.
Move around the country, you see. This year it's at York, next year it's in Kent, and following year back up in Cambridge, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So the winners of the qualifying classes in the local matches will go forward for the next year for the British National. Yeah. And then if they win their class then, it doesn't apply to every class, but in some classes they win that and then they go forward to the world match.
The class that you're most interested in is the high cut class.
Yes.
And also known as the oat
seed furrow.
Oat seed furrow.
That's right.
How is that particular to sowing and growing of the oat seed?
High cut ploughing was devised to accommodate the hand sowing of seed.
Yes.
So the furrows were so precise and the comb was so sharp, the comb being the corner of the furrow that's uppermost.
I was going to ask you that, comb, because it's known as lots of different
Yes, it is.
names,
Comb
isn't it?
or crest or top. That's
Yes.
right. A lot of these names are parochial. It was so precise that the seed was broadcast, would bounce onto the sides like that and trickle down into the crevice,
yes.
into the slot known as the crease.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
And then with a light set of horse harrows across the furrows, I emphasise, the seed was buried to a uniform depth in the creases.
Yes.
It would come up in drills. Judging this high cut thing is a very technical business, and I would cringe if I was judged in my ploughing days by anybody other than a high cut champion ploughman, because there's so much to it.
Yes.
And it's got to be understood, you see, there's so many aspects to this. Straightness is one of the things. I suppose the cardinal sin in competition ploughing is crookedness. In my opinion, that would be the cardinal sin. If you cannot go straight, you've got no business in the field. The second to that would be, the second worst sin would be paired work or coupled work, whereby you can see the furrows as coupled, because we're using two furrow ploughs, you understand, now with tractors.
Right.
In the horse days, of course, they were single furrows, but now with relatively modern tractors, we use vintage tractors really, but suffice it to say, they're still tractors of small horsepower, so we plough two furrows at a time. Now, if you can see those furrows on the finished plot as pairs or couples, that is you've committed some ghastly sin then.
Mm.
Competition ploughing is rather like flying an aeroplane. The tricky bit is the start and the finish. Getting the thing off the ground and back on the ground again. The bit in the middle is not too bad. There'll be two scratch marks put in.
By the judge?
No, by the plough, by the competitor.
Right.
The judge is not inside, he's probably on the road, he might be in the beer tent. We're not worried about the judge at this stage.
Right.
We've got to appease the steward. The steward's going to be there, and he's going to make sure there's no handling of the work after it's ploughed, and he's going to suggest the depth that's going to be ploughed. He'll measure that from time to time and take the task if it's too light or too deep. So the scratch is made, and then against that a furrow is put. Then you turn around against that and put an opposing furrow. So you start with two opposing furrows, and we build on that, and round we go 8 times round. And that's the crown. There's 7 aspects to a high cut plot. There's the crown, there's soil availability, there's uniformity of furrow, there's double bearing, there's ins and outs on the end, there's the finish. And all these aspects are worth up to 20 points.
Yes.
So the point I'm making to you is this, back to this start and the finish being the tricky bits. They're the bits that catch the judge's eye. The start, if you start well, or if one starts well and straight and that sort of thing, it's going to influence the judge to some degree. He'll probably pick you up quite higher than he would do if he came along and saw it later on in the day. And the finish particularly is the sort of gilt on the gingerbread. If you put a nice finish in there, a nice reen furrow, that's important. They're up to 20 points each thing. So it is technical. Back to the 3S and B Society. I'm very proud to be associated with this society, have been for many years, as I say. And you might like to know that we have an area. Every society has its own area. Now that's not adhered to strictly. It's not like fox hunting, whereby if a foreign pack of hounds came onto your territory, all hell let loose. It doesn't work like that. But just a matter of interest to you, the 3S and B territory is a 15-mile radius from Lechley Church Spire, and that's historic. And we're finding it increasingly difficult to find hosts, to find sites on which to plough.
Yeah.
We plough the last Saturday in September, and you can imagine our host is tremendous, wonderful, stalwart and sympathetic to what we're trying to do. But he's sat back on his backside, keeping his land unploughed. He mustn't touch, well, he can't touch it. We want to touch it. We want to plough it. So his neighbours are on, hypothetically ploughing and drilling and planting their corn and getting a head start on him. And if the weather sets in bad while he's been waiting, well, he's going to be very much out of pocket.
And I was thinking actually today or yesterday that you might think, well, he's getting a load of free ploughing done,
Yes.
but it's all over the place.
What a good question to put. We don't plough the nasty bits, and we don't plough the stony bits, and we leave the corners and the bits that aren't symmetrical, and
Yeah.
we've got the car.
And the whole load has been trampled down.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I was reading in the brochure about the horse harrow.
Yes.
And that is the system which comes along after your seed is sown.
Yes.
That pushes the
That's a
comb.
Yes. It
soil,
brushes the comb
soil.
into the crease,
Yeah.
and buries the seed at uniform depth.
Yes.
2 or 2.5 inches, shall we say, depends on how sharp the comb is and how friable the land is. Do you see? There's so many imponderables. But you're quite right. The harrow is a subsequent cultivation. That leads to another thing, you see. It's a fascinating subject. There's so many aspects to it. In the early days, I mean, we had 20. The standard Fortson tractor was the thing we won the war on agriculturally in this country. That's all we had on the farms, 20 horsepower. And in those days it was reckoned that you needed 10 horsepower per furrow. So that a standard Fordson tractor, 24 or 5 horsepower, would pull 2.5 furrows. That is to say, 2 furrows under adverse conditions and 3 under ideal conditions. Ploughs have 3 principal components: the share, the moldboard, and the coulter. The share makes a horizontal cut, the coulter makes a vertical cut, and the moldboard inverts the soil. They're the principal components. And from early days, from horse ploughs, from ploughs used by oxen, through to modern complex multi-furrow ploughs today, those 3 components still apply. It's fascinating. That's over 1,000 years or so. The material used is different, of course. We're using high tensile steel now for the moldboard, where in early days we were using wood. Fruit wood, incidentally, because fruit wood, pear wood or apple wood, would scour or run cleaner than elm or oak.
Right. I noticed on the Class 4, no restriction on attachments.
That's right.
That's to do with the moldboard, is it?
Yes, that's an interesting question. I'm pleased you raised that, Toby, because now with ordinary ploughing you'll see all sorts of types of ploughing, from horse ploughing right through to multi-furrow reversible ploughing. With high-cut ploughing we're allowed to use all sorts of extraneous attachments. There's a press, on each furrow there's a press, a boat and a seamer. These are purely items in an attempt to perfect the shape of the furrow.
And I mean, my imagination sort of stretches. These can be sort of knocked up, homemade.
Yes, they can. Blacksmith made.
It can be. And you bolt them on, and you can do
exactly them. Right. All's fair in love, war, and high cut ploughing.
Yeah.
You see? That's right.
So you can get all sorts of funny
the rules that apply to this class, high cut ploughing, you must finish on time. You must be the given depth, and that's about it, really. You can drag the thing sideways if you want to, but if the judge is going to be looking at what the plough does, not what the plough is. In the tractor high cut, or oat seed furrow class, all the ground is not necessarily ploughed. This is half a scratch opening. He'll complete the scratch by coming back against it, so that with the result there will be unploughed something like 24 inches or 2 foot. But it'll be covered by the crown.
There are some quite large, there's sods that have been dragged up. Is he allowed to get off his tractor and move those?
He's allowed to handle it. He won't at this stage because it'd be a waste of time. When he gets to the bottom, then he's got the scratches completed, then he'll walk up it and pat it and kick it and tap it about to make it look good. In competition ploughing, you only actually drive straight once, by eye anyway. You need 3 pegs to get it straight. Thereafter, every other run after that, you have to steer too. But straightness, I would emphasise now, is absolutely imperative. The cardinal sin in the ploughing match is crooked work, and that's totally unforgivable. Take note of the rear share. It's known as a skittling share. It's designed specifically to create that rippling in the centre of the scratch marks. They'll be taken off now and a normal ploughing share will be put on. You'll notice now that he's ploughing with just the rear body of the plough. The front body's running idle, and it's just pressing. If you notice, it's just pressing the previous slice. It's just touching that because there's a gap between the first 2 opposing furrows. He's going to try and close that gap. If you see now on the front board, you're just touching the furrow, the previous furrow. And he'll do the same coming back this way. He'll push this furrow in to close that gap.
said before, he said they were already before I was too early. I wouldn't come back. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, big green underneath. Cold day, yeah. I had a cold afternoon on these streets with a bar.
Doug, I noticed when the judges came just now that they quite happily trampled on the work that he's just done. Why were they doing that?
Well, that's necessary, Janet. They've got to feel the work under their boots. One of the important things with competition ploughing is to have it firm. It mustn't be hollow or puffy. It must be firm and stand up to hypothetically a fortnight's rain. So that and they'll be constantly walking backwards and forwards through the centre of the plots. So as they say, they're in the centre. They can turn left or right and see if there's any mistakes. If they try to do it from one end without walking over the work, then they'll probably miss something at the end they're not at. This is nice. This is the straightest plot in the field. It hasn't got the best comb by any means, but he has closed the crown up, or the first two opposing furrows. They're shut in nicely, so that'll control the weeds that may come through or attempt to come through. You notice that this competitor is measuring off with a tape measure. He's measuring the distance between his furrow and his neighbour's furrow. That is the land he's going to plough. He's going to go running around that stubble in ever-decreasing circles till he's finished in the middle. It's imperative that he keeps it parallel. Here's a nice crown, but, there's a big but, it's dirty. By that I mean there's stubble showing between the furrows. That really is not good. That will come under a heading of weed control, and the judge will peg him back several points for that. Here's an example of coupled work, whereby the furrows can be seen as pairs rather than individuals. Now here you notice the rear furrow, the back slice, is somewhat bigger than the front slice, which is next to it. So you've got big, small, big, small, big, small. He wants the experienced eye to see it. Judges certainly will see it and will be very critical about it, but it is there. This tractor is running at 56-inch centres. That means to say it is possible to leave 3 furrows intact. The 3 furrows on the right hand side there. 3 furrows intact between the wheel mark and the last furrow. Not 2.5 or 3.25. 3. And he's doing that. And he's leaving the last, what we call green furrow, the last on-ploughed furrow, narrower, slightly narrower than normal. He's been ploughing 8 inches wide. That's 7 inches wide there. He'll turn around now and come back and plough that last green furrow out with the front body or front board of the plough. The rear board will be running in the furrow on the right hand side there, about 2 inches deep, to bring out what we call the crown furrow. This is quite a nice finish. And now there's a right and a wrong way to finish your plot. That is to say that you must finish on the correct headland. You lay the last furrow against your crown. So his crown was on the left hand side. So the last furrow is laid towards that, which is correct. Had he laid it the other way, he'd have lost 30 points instantly. He's got 1 wheel mark, which is exactly right. If he had 2, he'd have been penalised very heavily. It isn't straight. The last furrow on the right-hand side is too high. There's not enough step between the finish and the furrow. Over and above that, it's nice work. We've got to allow for the conditions. It's hard. We've had no appreciable rain for a long time here. But it'll be somewhere in the frame, I suspect. This chap will be in the honours at prize giving at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I ploughed many years ago. I'd taken over some land adjoining Whitehall Farm, the farm that my wife and I went into when we were married. Took over some land that hadn't been ploughed in the memory of man. So it was sward, or turf, or grass, one and the same. And I ploughed this, and it caused me to think about those who had ploughed there before. And I wondered, because, as I say, it hadn't been ploughed in the memory of man. It hadn't been ploughed for 70 or 80 years, just to a certain knowledge. And I thought about this, and I went home, and the following winter I thought about that, sat in my chair by the fire at night with a double gin and tonic, and I scribbled a few words, and here they are. The thoughts of the ploughman. Sincere are the thoughts of they who plough for the first time since their grandfather's day, with furrows that are perfect, judge who may, land that has never borne corn but always lay. The headlands marked, and the split is made, and slice after slice to the crown is laid, with steel as bright as the armourer's blade, for these are men of a worthy trade. Furrows angled always to the same degree, straight and matched in superb uniformity, feed rooks on insects that only they see, and from the disturbance mice and voles flee. Happy these men with time to stare, as they eat their lunch of homely fare, in the shelter of a hedge not yet bare, and talk of plough settings made with care. Thoughts turn to those who ploughed there before. Did they also above them see a hawk soar, or a fox at dawn the hedgerow tore, and were they as contented though equally poor? Surely the greatest and most satisfying toil, the careful inversion of good dark soil, no heed of travel of many a mile, practised by they who to the earth are loyal. The finished furrows are a joy to be seen, as from the last to the ridge they lean, the hue now changed that for years was green, for all is naked where grass had been. Now the sun towards distant hills quite low, weary but contented ploughmen homeward go, with pride of skill, and justifiably so, their work left to be covered by winter snow.
Now how about a game of chess?
Are you throwing the gauntlet down, Toby? I'm picking it up. I'm picking it up. Lovely. We'll play chess. On the trail vintage class, this is accommodating kit made prior to 1952. Now, contrary to the opening on the high cut class, or class 4, in this class all the ground must be ploughed. This is known as a split, a double split. He's gone once up the field, the initial run with just the back body ploughing. There's a 2 furrow plough, but just the rear body ploughing. He's turned on the top head and he's come back this way, and he's taken out a slice with the front furrow, completing the split.
You say the front body's running idle.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, it's not ploughing at all. It's not in. He's not allowed to raise it out of the working position, but it's running in the slot in the furrow previously made when he came this way. But old Bill Davis, this man here, is just a wonderful man. Just a wonderful man. A man you must take your hat off to. 90 years old. Ploughing now, hard work with these trail ploughs, screwing handles and moving levers and things like that. He flies his own aeroplane. He tells me he's flying tomorrow if the sun shines. Quite an extraordinary man. Hope for the rest of us yet. This is shaping up very well. He's completing the opposing furrows with both plough bodies in the ground, which is quite unusual. Most men with this sort of kit would plough the first 2 opposing furrows with a single furrow.
In this year's ploughing match there are 15 different classes and 9 of them can be seen here. The whole ploughing match takes up about 120 acres. Apart from these old vintage tractors, you'll see brand new tractors, the huge big things that you see in fields today with big reversible ploughs. And also you'll see steam ploughing. Now of course this is not done commercially, but we're lucky that these 2 engines, one is diesel, it's converted from steam, and the other one is still steam. They come each year and they give a demonstration of steam ploughing, and then there is the horse ploughing, which is actually still competition. When you're steam ploughing, there are 2 engines, and one is at one side of the field and one at the other. There is a big steel hawser that links both of them, and the plough is pulled via this hawser from one steam plough to the other. The plough itself is steered, and you can see a gentleman here with the wheel making sure that it runs in a straight line, and the other 2 gentlemen sitting on there are really providing weight to make sure the plough actually goes into the ground and stays in the ground. At another time of year, the same two machines could be used to pull a machine backwards and forwards that men sat on and planted potatoes as it passed across the ground.
This is an interesting piece of equipment, or three pieces of equipment. A 1937 standard Fordson tractor on unusual spade lug wheels. They're unusual, they're not the normal spade lugs that were issued with the tractor. I think they're very specially made. However, it's a tractor that's running really very well. And a pretty Topher Ransom plough, what we call a straight beam plough, the one with a caster wheel at the back, 3/4 length boards. But the interesting thing, the most interesting thing about the whole outfit is the furrow press. This is devised more or less to take over from high cut ploughing to increase the depth of the press between the furrows for hand sowing or overwintering of the furrow. You can understand that with a deep press like that, the furrow set up high, if the plough is going to remain for spring sowing, it allows the penetration of frost and increases the possibility of a frost tilt. Unusual piece of equipment.
That's not too bad.
So what year did you have your first your first ploughing match when you competed there?
Oh, well, I started in the young farmers classes, of course, immediately after the war, but my first major win was a three counties match at Headington on the outskirts of Oxford in 1948. Three counties being in Oxfordshire, Berkshire and Buckinghamshire county match.
How old would you have been then?
19. I was born in 29. Beginning it should be 104 or something or other. I'm glad you feel like it from time to time, you understand. I would take a shot of this in the horse ploughing, in the high cut horse ploughing. You'll notice how narrow the furrows are. And this man's got it straight. You haven't buried the stubble too well, but nevertheless it's a jolly good effort. It's going quite well. I'm not sure of the competitor's name, but there looks like there's half a dozen here today. I think this man's in with a very good chance. It's got a certain style to it. How do you define style? I suppose narrow and high-crested and straight and clean. It's quite nice work. Let's walk along and see the rest.
of the 3Fs and a B annual ploughing match, there is a lot more to see apart from horse, vintage and modern tractor ploughing. In the marquees you'll find grain classes. You'll also find a homecraft section where the ladies have their competition for things that they cook and flower arranging and sewing. There are children's competitions. You'll find a lot of rural crafts, items for sale in there, wonderful for getting Christmas presents. Around the outside you'll find static trade stands. Yes, a lot of them are selling items specifically to do with farming, but you'll also find people selling plants and good outdoor clothing. There's dry stone walling, there's hurdle making, thatching demonstrations, there's hedge laying, and you'll find there's a parade ground, and what's shown there varies from year to year. It could be a parade of foxhounds, there could be terrier racing, dog agility, tug of war, there'll be a tractor parade and a demonstration of flying birds of prey. There's usually little mini tractors and cars, and children can have rides. There is so much more to the 3Fs and a B ploughing match than just simply ploughing. It's a wonderful day out.
Nicky's line up with the sun, so I'm dazzled by the sun. Going on the keeping low today. Nothing to this sort of indiscriminate. Oh, we can blow fingers! Oh! You don't know why, but I've never known a thick Balkan fly to anybody. Yeah.
We won't embarrass the corporate of this ghastly finish by showing his flock number, but we take a shot of this just to show that this is just not the way to do it.
He must play that last word against the